Right? So we have our option. We can work for 54 months in best case, or 7 months. Now, honestly, we find some organizations, many organizations, have about a 9 to 12 week assimilation rate instead of 7 months, because not everybody's down in the dirt at B, or nothing would ever get done. Right? Right. So if we want to know how long it would take our organization, right, then what we'll do is look at finding our organization's cognitive layer, because that's key. If I know the cognitive layer that an organization is on, then I know where to start with affecting change. I know if I have to offer acts of service, if I can use verbal expression of structure for someone who's at ACT, at that second cognitive layer. I know if I can offer trust and resource for someone who's at think, to drive them to generalize. And so as we look at an exercise to do this, we're going to start at the bottom and ask ourselves, for your organization, where do you think you would be? Now, I'm not really going to go around the table so much, but I might ask you to raise hands if you've seen some of these things within your organization. Okay? B. What we see at B is often when somebody takes action. So you're on a project team, you hear somebody was in a meeting and somebody said something. You come back and you're talking to someone, and they assume a malicious motivation. They did that to get at me. All right? Okay, anybody ever heard that? No, okay. Had people say, I feel like I walk around with a target on my back. Right? That's your strongest indicator. That organization is at B. Right? You can talk to your blue, nothing will seem to change. Highly charged emotional responses to changes, and one thing we see a lot, team meetings become team fights. That ever happened to anyone here? Yeah, okay, me too. All right, okay, I want to take a minute to explain the coffee pot measurement. Right? If I want to find out what an organization is doing, the easiest way to find out in a hurry is go look at their coffee pots, frankly. It's a shared resource. It's usually something that everybody's supposed to maintain for each other's benefit. If you take the last cup, you're supposed to make another pot, that sort of thing, what have you. For a coffee pot measurement for an organization at B, usually the coffee mess, a Navy term, right? But I was in the Navy. The coffee mess, the place where you go get your coffee, is very dirty. Right? I've actually seen organizations where someone would rather than take the time to clean up the coffee mess for someone else, they'll write the date in the dust or the dirt to see how long it takes someone else to go clean it. Okay, I have actually seen that happen. I took pictures of it. I was amazed. It was a great measurement. Okay, so if you see dates written in coffee pots or on shelves around somewhere, your organization's at B. You can stop there. We know what you need to do. That kind of thing. All right. Okay, ACT. If your organization is at ACT, okay, you're going to have an extremely tactical focus. Right? The organization will cycle through a set of behaviors, hoping for a different result, but always winding up with the same one. Then they'll say, oh, we've got to make a change, and they'll start doing it all over again. Okay? You'll hear people say, just tell me what I'm supposed to do. Anybody ever heard that? Okay. All right, that's an organization that is at ACT. Okay, our coffee pot measurement, pots will run empty. Right? Someone will frequently take the last cup and not leave any more. Anybody ever walk up to a coffee pot? Oh, I just need one more cup of coffee. It's after lunch, right? Got to wake up, go up. Not only is it empty, right, but it's a shambles. Right? Some folks are nodding their heads. Yeah, we might have seen that kind of thing. Okay, so our next measurement then, right, is let's look for an organization that's at think. Okay? So an organization at think, I'm going to be met with, but this and this and this will go wrong kind of responses. Right? How can we know that it's going to work? Searching for that guarantee, that sort of thing. Actions are, possible actions are considered to see which one might possibly work. And then frequent use of the word I think. Ever gone into a meeting, talk to somebody about something you ought to do, and they start talking, well, I think we ought to do this, or I think this, or I think this, or I think this might not work. That sort of thing. We hear think a lot. That's actually why we named this level think, because people say that all the time here for some reason. Don't really know why, but they do. Okay? It's just a word we use to express, I've thought about a possible future scenario, and I'm not so sure about it. Okay? Our coffee pot measurement, there are frequent complaints about the lack of foresight in coffee management. Okay? Got some laughs, right? Someone, yeah, okay. All right, so we find organizations that think all the time. All right, so as you think about as you look across your own experiences, as you measure your own organization, right, you get an idea of how long it would take to affect that change. If you have an organization that's at think, it's not going to take quite as long, right? 9 to 12 weeks, give or take a bit. But our goal is to get it up to generalize. Now, as we talk about really applying this, it's not just the culture that has to change. There are other aspects that feed onto it. And so, in intentionally designed culture, we're generalized. I'll back up to this and we'll go to the next bit. The frequent association of a change topic here is met with past beneficial experiences. People go, oh, we've done something like that before. It was similar to this and that worked, and so this will probably work. And rapid assimilation of new behaviors. 2 to 3 repetitions required. Coffee pot measurement. It's going to be well maintained. It's going to be clean. There'll almost always be a fresh pot of coffee made. Right? One of the ways to know if your organization is working above the line is somebody will make a new pot of coffee in anticipation of the rush. Okay, yeah, there's half a pot left, but it's after lunch. And after lunch, we usually have a rush on coffee. I'll go ahead and make another pot now. You see people offer their resource for the benefit of the team. That sort of thing. So, having walked through this a little bit, as you sort of measured maybe where your organization was, we actually have a map to plot that against. And we call this the Intentionally Designed Culture Organizational Profile. And as I decode this a bit, because I'm not quite legible, I think, from that distance, what we find is the green columns represent the minimum level of measurement necessary for an organization to have self-sustaining change. Okay, we measure process or culture, just like we talked about. We measure it in 4 different areas: in personal culture, personal behaviors, interpersonal team collaboration behaviors, cultural behaviors, the entire society or area in which an organization is embedded, and subcultural cognitive layers, that is where your whole company is. We measure the use of process automation, and we measure technology age. And technology age is pretty simple. It's Iron Age, Industrial Age, Information Age, or Knowledge Age. I won't go into them too much except to say, everyone here have instant messaging or email, right? So if you've got email and you send an email, do you wait for a response to come right back? Sometimes, right? We see organizations that use email as a way to have a telephone conversation. Right, and we would say, okay, they're in the industrial age. Great technology, but they'll lead off their email with, "Can I ask you a question?" Sort of thing. "Can I come interrupt you?" That sort of thing. Rather than saying, "Hey, I'm trying to do this," right? They tend to lead off with, "Can I ask you a question?" And those organizations, there'll be a few people who spend about 75 to 80% of their day answering the same question over and over and over. Is that person here today? Probably. Okay, so that's our technology age measure. The red bars represent where we typically find the average company when we walk in the door. Now, we come in and do a 2-week assessment, for example, and out of that assessment we can produce the organizational profile and begin to construct the change plan and start doing the design for the memes, those little ideas that are going to copy themselves, and start spreading them into the organization. So it takes about 2 weeks to set all that up, and we take this measurement. As you'll see, most organizations are not far. Right, they need to climb 1 or 2 levels in our measurement, 1 or 2 cognitive layers, things like that. They need to go from the Iron Age to the Industrial Age, right? So another sign that someone's at the Industrial Age is there's always a line at the copier, or you run out of disk space on your email server because of file attachments, that kind of thing. You're using technology to make copies of information, and of course, what happens to copies? Well, they go out of date in a hurry. Oh, and I've got to get a new copy because somebody changed something. Then you find out they added a comma. Right, that wasn't worth sending a new copy. Now I've got to handle 2 of them. So we look at this measurement and we say, if we can get the organization to line up with those green bars, then we're going to achieve very rapid change. 2 to 3 repetitions required for each idea. We'll have them fully up and running in about 7 months. Okay, and so this is one of the tools that we use in order to decide where we need to affect change and what specific changes should be put in place. Like I said, those different concepts have dependencies on each other, and as we deploy them, we want to make sure that they're embedding themselves and being fully assimilated to support the next set of ideas that come along.